Hey guys, welcome back to While We're Cleaning. Today I have some Dollar Tree Christmas ornament DIYs to share with you. I have 20 different variations of ornaments to share in today's video, and that's why it's a little bit of a longer video. I decided to just condense all of the ornaments into one video this year. So I hope that this video gives you a lot of great ideas of how you can use some $1 Dollar Tree products to make some very high-end looking ornaments. These ornaments would be great for decorating in your home or giving as gifts. I think they would also make a great craft night, whether that's with friends or with your kids. A lot of them are very simple to put together. So please excuse my voice throughout this video. I am losing my voice just a little bit, so I am going to try my best to make it through this video without completely losing my voice. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and subscribe so that you can see more of my Christmas DIYs coming up. Let's get started. For my first DIY, I'm going to use this paler green yarn, and then I'm also going to use a wooden bead from this garland. You could also just get a wooden bead from a pack there at Dollar Tree as well. And then I cut a long strand of the yarn and just went ahead and tied a knot at the top so it made a loop. Then I just added one of those beads just right to the top, and it's just a little bit of a decorative touch. You don't even need the bead if you don't want to have it on there. And then I went ahead and looped a bunch of yarn around and then cut it at both ends, so it was a bunch of maybe 8-inch strips. And then you're going to fold those in half, and you can see here I'm looping the ends of one side through the loop on the other and then pulling it so it makes this knot in the middle. And then here I'll slow it down a little bit. I think you can see it a little bit better in this one. Each loop that you add, you're going to rotate that bottom loop that's going to go underneath the strands. And so when you rotate that one, it'll make the knot a little bit different for every other section, if that makes sense. This is pretty simple and it goes pretty quickly once you get the hang of it. I did cut about 40 strands of this yarn for this, and then you use 2 sections for each little knot that you make. But it does have about 40 little tails coming off to each side. And you could use any color yarn you want for this or some string as well. I cut the yarn more into a Christmas tree shape, but then when I tried to tease out the yarn with my comb, it was really hard to work with those longer strands. It was making them want to unravel at the center, so I cut off a little bit more, and I do like the way it looks with the shorter strands anyways. So you can just use a fine-tooth comb and just tease those out. Just make sure you hold on to the knots in the center so that your yarn doesn't pull out from the center. And once you get it all pulled out, you'll just come back with your scissors and just trim off the edges again just to clean it up. And then you can clip off that bottom part of yarn. You could add a bead to the bottom of this as well if you would like. I really love the way that this turned out, and I think it has a very boho look to it. I'm excited about this next ornament. It is a paper ornament, and I'm using this thicker white paper that came in one of those assorted packs that they sell there at Dollar Tree. Has quite a few just scrap pieces of paper inside of it. I'm using the inside of a tape roll because it's the size of the circles that I wanted to make, and I just traced those. I did 10 circles. I was able to fit 2 on each paper, and then I just went through and cut all of those out. You won't want to see that pencil line on your finished product, so try to cut to the inside of it, and then go ahead and go through and fold all of your circles in half. Then we're going to add some glue just to one end of it so it just holds it in kind of this taco shell shape. And then next, we're going to take those two sides that we just glued and we're going to stick them up next to each other. So you can see that here. And then on the other side, you have the unglued ends, and we're gonna glue those two circle sections together just with just a little bit of glue there. So I think you can see here how I'm doing that. And we're just gonna continue that same pattern. Put the sides that you originally glued together next to each other, and then you're gluing the circles together on the other side, in that side that is open. And you'll just want to stack these right on top of each other and make sure all of your edges are lined up, and you can see how it makes this honeycomb type ornament. Next, I added a bunch of glue down that binding so that it would all glue together as I pulled it around, and then I finished off gluing the ornament together on one of those opened edges. And then I added some string to the top of it to hang the ornament with. You could also add this string while your center is still open. I just kind of like shoved it in there after the fact, but here you can see how that ornament turned out, and I really love the way it looks. I made a second variation of this ornament as well with a smaller circle. So this container, when I trace it, makes a smaller circle. And then I used some pink paper. This paper also came in one of those multi-packs from Dollar Tree, and my stores have had a lot of those in stock. But if you don't find them, you could use really any paper, just maybe one that's a little bit thicker than normal printer paper. I really like this paper because it has a nice texture to it as well. And I did put this ornament together in the same way as I did the first one, so you can just see here how I did it a second time. I think this ornament also would look really nice in an oval shape or more of a rounded diamond shape, just giving it a little bit more of an oblong shape to the honeycomb pattern. Next, I'm going to use some gold paper, again from one of those paper multi-packs from Dollar Tree, and we're gonna make another paper ornament. So I marked it on both ends at a 1/2 inch going all the way across so that I could draw some straight lines, and then we're gonna cut this into some 1/2 inch long strips. I cut 12 strips of this gold paper, and then on each end of the paper, about a 1/4 inch in, I used a paper clip to make a small hole. Next, I'm going to use some of this gold wire. I cut off about a 10-inch piece of this and then folded it in half, and at one end I left a little loop. And you can see there, that's gonna hold on one of these beads from this eyeglass cord that I picked up from Dollar Tree. You could also just pick up a pack of beads. And then that's gonna hold the paper in place at the bottom edge of this ornament. I looped all those papers onto the wire, and then I folded them back up over and looped them back onto the wire at the other end. Once all of the paper is looped back onto the wire, you can adjust the size of your bulb here. You could make it more round, you can make it more flat. Once you get it to where you want it, you can add another one of those little beads, and then just take your excess wire and twist it together, push it back down through the bead, and wrap the wire around itself underneath the bead to hold it in place. And then that can be used as your loop to hang this ornament on your tree. Then you can just adjust all those little pieces of paper. You could also add some glue to these to make sure that they stay in place how you like them. Next, I'm using some of the blocks from this tumbling tower game, and they have those in the large packs there at Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to use some alphabet stamps and some black chalkboard paint. You could use whatever color paint you want. I just spread out some of this paint into the bottom of a container so that it acts a little bit more like a stamp pad. You could also just get a stamp pad if you would like to. And then you can spell whatever words you want on these little wooden blocks. Now this would be a great project, I think, to do with some kids. I put Noel on this one. I also put together some other ones that I'll show you here in a second. And then I just hot glued a piece of twine to the back in order to hang them. But you can see here, I also put together some other words, and I did some with my kids' names on them. So there's lots of options for this. You are a little bit limited on the length of this little piece of wood, but you could glue a couple of them together if you wanted to as well, and that would make it a little bit longer, so you could do some longer words or phrases. Next, I'm going to use a white bulb from this 2-pack and some rub-on stickers from Dollar Tree, and we're going to make a Ray Dunn inspired Christmas ornament. So you can just cut out whatever letters you need from these rub-on stickers. They also have these in a gold color or a few different styles there at Dollar Tree as well. These black letters are my favorite to work with. They're really easy to transfer. And I just cut out the letters Merry, and then I used a little tool to rub them onto this white ornament. I think these ornaments would make a great gift because they have such a high-end finished look to them, and you could add any words or you could add names of your family members, and you don't have to use these white ornaments. They are a little bit more expensive than like a 5 or a 6-pack there at Dollar Tree, so use whatever you can and just have fun creating. For the next couple DIYs, I'm going to use some bulbs from this 7-pack. The first one, I'm going to make a baking soda paint mixture. So I used a cream color, and then I also ended up adding in some white because I wanted it to be just a little bit lighter. But then you pretty much do 50-50 paint and baking soda. It'll thicken up the paint a little bit. And when you paint this on your ornament, it will just make a little bit of a clay type texture on the outside of your ornament. So I did add a skewer to my ornament so that when I'm ready for it to dry, I can go ahead and stick it into a cardboard box and it can dry. That way I'm able to paint all sides of this at the same time. So I just painted that mixture onto this ornament, and I did end up doing 2 coats on each of these ornaments. I also wanted to do a terracotta colored ornament, so I added kind of a burnt red color and then some brown, mixed that with some cream and some of the baking soda as well, and then I painted that onto a few ornaments. Adding the baking soda to this paint also makes it thicker so that it will cover these ornaments a little bit better, because as you can see, I'm using the darker blue ornament here and the paint does cover it really well. I did add a second coat to all of these, and I really love how the finished look of these is with how you can see the brush strokes on them. It really does give just some really cheap ornaments a nice high-end look to them. You can see this one here, I went ahead and just painted the bottom half of it with that terracotta color. I also did some that are solid cream color and then some that are a solid terracotta color. And it did turn out to be a little bit more of a pink than a terracotta. It does dry a little bit lighter than what your paint looks like. Next, I wanted to put together a cute brushstroke looking ornament. So I did use this gold ornament, and then I chose 4 colors, a pink, a burgundy, a cream, and then kind of a rusty brown color. And then I'm just making small brush strokes all over this ornament. And I really love the way this one ended up turning out. I do think that it would be a great project to do together with your kids. And you can just wait for each color to dry to go on, or as I did here, I just went ahead and kept painting, and some of my colors did touch, but they didn't mix too much. These acrylic paints are the ones from Walmart, and they do dry pretty fast, and they dry a matte color, which I think adds a nice dimension to this ornament as well. I added a skewer to the end of this one as well so that I could paint all the sides at the same time and then stick it in a cardboard box to dry. Here you can see this is actually the second ornament that I did like this one. The colors overlap a little bit more, and I like the way this one turned out better. Next, I'm going to dip some ornaments into some plaster of Paris. I've done this with pumpkins before from Dollar Tree, and it gives a nice kind of clay or pottery look to the ornaments. So I did mix some plaster of Paris according to the directions. Also know that this does dry pretty fast, so I mixed a little bit too much here for the first time around, but just follow the directions on your package. And then I added a skewer to the end of my ornament and then just rolled it into the plaster of Paris, made sure that I covered all the edges, and then just tapped off any excess. Here you can see how it looks. It does dry with some kind of bubbles on them, but you can sand this surface, and I just had to use my finger to sand it, and you can see how it ends up smooth here. Next is another really simple DIY that I'm going to use these clear bulbs with, and then I'm going to use some different greenery that I picked up there at Dollar Tree. They have some great options this year. This last one here is a new one this year, and I think the branches look so realistic and nice. And so we're just going to use 3 different types of branches and then 3 of these bulbs. You're just going to pull off one little branch from that big bush of branches that you have there, and then just slide it right into the bulb. They also have some larger bulbs there in the store that I think this would look great in those as well. So these are just the smallest option that they have there. But then you can see here, I just did 3 different ones. Took me only a few seconds to do each one. So simple to put together, and they turned out amazing. Next, I'm going to cover one of these white bulbs that comes in a 2-pack with this yarn. So this is a thicker yarn. It has kind of a furry texture to it. They do have some kind of fur covered ornaments that come in a 2-pack at Dollar Tree this year. I was able to find those, but I know not everybody will be able to find them. And here's a way that you can make one of those for yourself for about the same amount of money. This one is actually a little bit bigger than what they sell in the 2-pack there in the store, and it is very simple to put together. So I'm just adding some hot glue around this bulb and just working my way all the way around to the bottom of the bulb, and it's just really that simple. They do have some other colors of this yarn there in the store as well, so if you wanted to use just any other color, you could pick up some from there at Dollar Tree. I would just suggest, if you do use a different color of yarn, just try to get a bulb that is the same color as your yarn, because it's really nice that you don't have to worry about all of the edges of the yarn meeting up together. Next is another really simple DIY. They have these pom-poms in 3 different sizes this year. So this is the largest size. It comes in a 3-pack. And then I'm going to use some of that same yarn that I just showed you. And I'm just going to cut off some short pieces of it and tie a knot so it makes a loop. And then we're just going to glue that knot down into this pom-pom. And it just makes a really cute little snowball looking ornament. Next, I'm going to use some green paper that again came in one of those paper multi-packs from Dollar Tree. I'll also be using some wooden beads from one of those wooden garlands from the fall. And I have 3 pieces of paper here. They are stacked on top of each other, and I am cutting out a leaf shape through all 3 of the papers at the same time, so it's the same shape. And then at the top of each of these leaves, I'm going to pinch it just a little bit so that we can just give this a little bit of dimension. So I added some hot glue, just a tiny dot there, and then I'm going to cut off a piece of this string, and I'm just going to add some hot glue at the top of one of those leaves, add my string, and then pinch 2 leaves together. So this strand is going to be what is going to hang these leaves as an ornament. So then I just added them between those leaves so that you don't see the ends of those. Next, I took another piece of that same string and I used it to loop my 3 beads together. So they're all just looped together onto one string. I did have to use a little wooden piece there to push the string through the beads. And I'm going to add these kind of as a group of berries to the top of my leaves. So once I had them the way I wanted, I tied the string nice and tight. And then I'm going to take this string and pull apart just the top of those leaves, add a little bit of glue in there, and then I just glued the end of that string in place to hold those beads in place. Here's how that ornament turned out, and you could add some little colored pom-poms to the top of this instead if you wanted to, or you could paint these beads. Next, I'm putting together 2 different variations of adding some trim to some ornaments just to dress them up a little bit. So I'm going to add some pom-pom trim to that pink ornament, and then also some burlap trim to this white ornament. On the pom-pom and pink ornament, I started about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom of the ornament and added some hot glue. You're just going to add that all the way around this bottom edge of the ornament. Just try to keep it in as straight a line as possible, and then just come back around and meet to that beginning side where you started with your trim, and then go ahead and glue that down in place. And then I'm also going to add some of this about 1/3 away down from the top of the ornament as well. So it's going to be 2 strands of this pom-pom trim going around the pink ornament. And then with this white ornament, I'm going to add some of this kind of loopy burlap trim. I found this in with the ribbon there at Dollar Tree. It's not a seasonal item, so hopefully you'd be able to find it, but they have lots of pom-pom trim options there in the store as well. And I just glued that around the center of this ornament. really love this wood decor that I picked up with the fall items this year, and I never really came up with a fall DIY for them, but I think they would make some really cute little ornaments, and so that's what we're going to make with them today. I am going to use a few different paints, and you can see the colors here. I'm going to use those to paint different parts of these wood pieces so that we can just give them a little bit of a pop of color on them. They had two different shapes of these mushrooms, and so I'm just going to use this kind of robin blue color to paint the top of one of them. Also, I really like the finish of matte acrylic paints. I just think it gives these a really nice finish instead of making them shiny. And then for this one, I'm going to use a pale gray to paint the top of this mushroom. Lastly, I painted the bottom of the acorn with this cream color, and I didn't realize it would be so close to the color of the wood. Otherwise, I probably would have just left the bottom of this acorn with just the natural wood color, because then I decided it needed to have a little bit more dimension, so I added some of this deeper brown color to the top of the acorn. And you can see here how it turned out, but I maybe would have just left the bottom of the acorn in that wood color if I knew that it just really wouldn't make a difference. You could also use a bright white, and that would make a little bit more of a contrast between the bottom and the top. I used some twine to hang these with. I tied a knot and then trimmed off any excess out the bottom of that knot. Then I just added a dot of hot glue to the top of each of these ornaments and then just glued that knot right onto the top of the ornament so that there wasn't really any glue oozing out the top. And I really love the way that these ones turned out. Lastly, today I have another boho inspired ornament to share with you. I'm going to use some of this green yarn and then also these 5 wooden beads from that wood garland. And then I'm going to cut off about a 14-inch piece of this yarn, and I folded that in half and tied a knot at the top of it. And then I used this plastic needle to thread my 5 beads onto the yarn. And then lastly, I'm going to make a little pom-pom to attach to the bottom of this. So I just wrapped it around this cardstock piece several times. Then I tied it at the top nice and tight there, and I did loop this string through that top knot that I was tying and then double knotted that there so that it was tied onto the bead string. And then I finished off my pom-pom by cutting the bottom and cutting off any excess strings there, and then tied one piece of yarn around the center there to hold it all in place. Once I trimmed off any excess yarn from the bottom there, it was all finished, and I really, again, love the way that this one turned out, and you could do it in any colors to match your decor. Those are all of the ornaments that I have to share with you in today's video. I do hope that it was helpful for you. Let me know down in the comments which of these ornaments was your favorite, and also let me know what colors you are decorating with for Christmas this year. Thank you all so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!